Today I'm going to use Volt Switch, Shadow, Alolan, Graveler, and the Electric Cup. Let's just jump into the battles. Alrighty here. So, I wanted to make a video on this other team I was experimenting with in the Electric Cup that I felt was actually kind of nice. Basically, we're using a Hisuian Electrode lead. We are still running Galvantula, but more as a closer on the team. And if we, by chance, get a bad lead, the idea is we're going to try to use our Alolan Shadow Graveler here as a safe swap. And we are running Volt Switch to try to focus more about getting energy for charge moves. So in this match, made some pretty great calls here on this Shadow Magnezone match. Really scary, but we did preserve our shield a bit, but we end up going down to the Wild Charge. But I felt like at this point, I was okay taking the Wild Charge on Galvantula. Unfortunately, they only had a mirror shot there, so we could just farm down Hisuian Electrode, gain a little bit of extra energy, try to get double Wild Charge off on this Galvantula, which is frightening. But they don't shield, so we end up just switching in our our Alolan Graveler because we wanted to get the defense drops off our Electrode, and we are going to go straight Stone Edge here. I decided to just throw the Rock Blast to get some chip damage off because this will guarantee that it will be in range, that if we get to the Wild Charge, we should be able to remove this Lantern. And pretty much at this point, we have enough HP that we should be fine at taking one of these surfs and getting to the Wild Charge, and that will be the game. So that will be our very first match here of the video. Alright, so I had a lot of fun playing this team. And yeah, so pretty much since we get a bad lead here, I'm going to insta swap to Graveler on the Galvantula. They will bring in their Lantern. And the thing that's kind of nice about this matchup, as opposed to running Rock Throw, if we do get a scenario where we get a Lantern switch in, we actually have some relatively decent play. So I'm going to go Stone Edges because that's the way I like to play this Alolan Graveler. I really don't like baiting too much unless I'm confident they are going to shield. And as you saw, they actually do commit both shields. And now I'm going to actually just throw a Rock Blast. So the thing that's interesting about this matchup is the Volt Switch damage just racks up so much. If they don't shield a Stone Edge, you could typically just shield Graveler and remove Lantern on the safe swap. So that's one of the main reasons why I enjoyed using this Pokemon, and I think Galvantula is one of the better Pokemon to try to close out with in the Electric Cup, depending. I mean, even, I am running Energy Ball in mine, I'm not running Cross Poison Lunge, which is very common and does help break the mirror match, especially if you don't know that they're running Cross Poison. But I think Energy Ball has been extremely clutch on Galvantula in this format, so I'm gonna just kind of stick with running it. And at this point, we're in a pretty decent scenario. We have our Electrode versus our Electrode. We have one shield, and we get a defense drop. So that just guarantees that we're going to flip this match safely. So they end up quitting the match, which I understand. So one of the reasons why I wanted to run this team was I kept seeing Lantern leads nonstop, and I just figured, why not make a team? I don't know, I'm not someone that necessarily believes in the algorithm, but I do feel like you do have to try to make adjustments occasionally. And I do tend to fear making changes because I get so comfortable running a certain team. But I do feel that this team took us a little bit of time to get used to, especially because this format can punish you hard for not counting properly or over-tapping, especially using a Pokemon that has a Volt Switch. That can be game-changing in some scenarios if you over-tap. But yeah, in this scenario, we're looking pretty good because we do end up getting a defense drop, which scares that Lantern, so they switch out, just get a little bit of energy on their Galvantula, and that gives me free reign to bring in a hard counter, which I do bring in Graveler, and since I do connect the Rock Blast, there's really no need to commit a shield, even if it's Lunge. I mean, excuse me, even if it's Energy Ball, it's fine if they remove me, but it was just Lunge, so yeah, having a Lantern versus Electrode, pretty solid for us in the back. So any type of Rock Throw variant of a Pokemon, Graveler, Alolan Golem, Alolan Geodude, any of these Alolan Geodude forms, excuse me. The way I like to play these matchups typically is I like to go for build up to the Energy Ball, throw a Wild Charge, and then switch into Graveler and go straight Stone Edge. A lot of times they don't shield and then I just remove Graveler or Golem on the when I switch in the Graveler, because sometimes they're not paying attention 100% to see that I am Volt Switch. But if they do switch in the Lantern like they did here, I know this looks crazy, I committed both shields early on, but I felt confident that we could probably snag both shields on the Golem with a Rock Blast, assuming they wanted to try to use this to help deal with the Electrode. I guess I was assuming they might have Lantern or something to back, but they end up having... Oh wait, no, excuse me, what am I saying? Of course they didn't have Lantern to back, but they do have Galvantula, which can be extremely dicey here. Not particularly our best situation, but we are also in an okay range to just hit the lunge, and we can't get one shot by their Galvantula, fortunately, and we are able to get the lunge off. I actually decided to go straight for farm down because I knew they couldn't get another move off, and that allows me to go for energy ball. Pretty much that was my only real win con here, was I had to get an energy ball off. I mean, technically I could have just thrown lunge. That was enough to probably remove the Golem, but better to be safe there, and we got kind of lucky that we were able to just farm down their Galvantula. That might have something to do with the fact that I'm running a higher rank Galvantula, but the issue is I typically am using Galvantula in the back line in this format because I lose every CMP if I try to lead it. So that's the reason why I've structured my teams the last few videos the way I have with Galvantula, just because I feel like it's a good pick and I really don't want to be in scenarios where I'm just constantly losing mirror matches, or I have to like somehow break up the monotony by switching out and risking just getting hard countered that way. But yeah, in this match, we get the mirror, and we both just kind of stay in. I commit one shield. They end up switching out, and interesting enough, I do safely get the energy ball off, which I probably could have baited there, realistically. But at the same time, this is probably our best case scenario. We are able to get our Graveler in on their Graveler, and they just don't shield. I'm thinking that maybe they weren't paying attention and thought I was Rock Blast. And yeah, that worked out super good. But then I saw that they had Golem, and I was like, okay, maybe they just wanted to drain my energy so they could try to farm down with their Golem, which is super frightening. These double rock teams are really difficult to deal with this line. But fortunately, we are able to make a really great sack swap here. And yeah, at that point, I brought in Galvantula. And interesting enough, they switched out, and I just end up farming a little bit of energy, and that's the only reason why I've won this. Literally, that's the only reason why I could win that, was because the Volt Switch damage was enough. So that was an insane set. That's a 5-0 set here, and I have one more set that I wanted to share with you today. Alright, so here is our final set of the video. Yeah, so we get a Lantern lead, they bring in the Graveler. So how I like to play this, like I said earlier, I like to build up to the energy ball because people are counting at this yellow for sure. And I bait with the wild charge, switch out into my Graveler. Now we're in a mirror, but I can generate energy a tad faster being Volt Switch. And I just go straight Stone Edge. You don't really want to try to generate extra energy in this matchup. I think I have an example of a battle where I made that mistake in this set, which I wanted to showcase. But yeah, it's really important you throw that Stone Edge. Like, you want to insta swap after you throw the wild charge bait, and you need to throw Stone Edge right as you get it. You do not want to try to generate extra energy. So either they commit the shield or they don't. So in this scenario, it's looking kind of dicey, but we pretty much have to throw lunge here. We risk just dying, and they're more than likely gonna shield regardless. And it also does benefit us tremendously because it does allow us to take a little more damage here from all the rock moves. But the reality is we are only relying we're only relying on this Electrode, and the Surf should be enough to remove Electrode at this HP range. So that's a little unfortunate. It was a really close match, but yeah, really great game. So in this match, we get the same kind of situation, but I think this is the example where I overtap a bit on my Graveler on my safe swap, and you'll kind of see that if you end up making that little error, you'll have to commit both shields unless you just want to take the Rock Blast and deal with that. Because see here, yeah, if I would have thrown Stone Edge, I would have either gotten a shield or removed the Graveler entirely from the fight. So this just puts me back tremendously, which every little play that you can try to gain some momentum in the match is important when you run a team like this, in this type of format especially. So yeah, I get punished pretty hard just purely because of that overtap in this match. I mean, we're in mirror matches and we're behind energy the rest of the match. There's just really not a lot of hope that we can bring this one back. And at this point, we get our lunge off, but this Galvantula can actually just farm us straight down safely and retain its energy. So yeah, it's just a GG, well played. So yeah, definitely consider liking the video. It does help my content reach a wider audience here on YouTube. So we do get a Galvantula lead, and I do safe swap into my Graveler. As I've explained, that's probably our default play. And they get Ampharos in with us, which can be a little scary just purely because they do have Trailblaze now. They do make a great call to bait with Brutal Swing, and I'm going to go for the Rock Blast, try to get some chip damage up. They do commit a shield. I know that it's neutral damage here, but it is also a shadow variant of Ampharos, which does mean this damage is still going to hurt. They do end up throwing the Trailblaze and lidding fortunately we had our shield. We removed the Ampharos, and from here we have a little bit of energy for Galvantula, and they end up just quitting the match because I guess they just thought they were so far behind that they couldn't overcome the end game. Maybe it was a lantern in the back, who really knows. But in this match, we get the Graveler lead, and I like to build up to the energy ball, throw the wild charge, switch in Alolan Graveler, and then from here, like I said earlier, we don't want to overtap on this Graveler. And the thing is, they end up staying in entirely. They don't switch out. Maybe they think they can just bring in Lantern here, and that's pretty much what they end up doing. So we do remove Graveler entirely, which is super clutch, and more than likely they're not going to shield because they want to try to have shield advantage for the end of the game if they can manage it. We do connect that Stone Edge, which is beautiful. We bring in Electrode, and my thought process here was there's a really good chance they have Galvantula in the back, so pretty much have to insta swap after they throw the Surf to try to generate a little bit of energy. And if they insta swap, this is pretty much the scenario. It looks like we're equal energy, and unfortunately, like I was saying a little bit earlier in the video, and you can see the stats of my Galvantula, I'm gonna lose the majority of the mirror matches if we're equal for energy. So that's a little unfortunate for us here. But fortunately, we still are in a range where the Galvantula actually can't get off a move, and we can Thundershock down with Hisuian Electrode, which we just barely won. Well, it's not like 1 HP, but we're in the red, and we were able to just get that wild charge off on Lantern, which was super clutch, very close battle for sure. But that's pretty much how this team functions. It's a very punishing team if you don't count correctly, you don't shield correctly, or if you overtap on a lone Graveler, you waste your energy, you don't bait correctly. There's definitely layers to this team, but I found that this team does relatively decent against the majority of the teams I've faced. And pretty much at this point, we have shields down, we have so much health on Electrode. I generally like to, when I have this type of situation occurring, I like to build a lot of extra energy. I don't really mind taking a lot of damage here from the Lantern, knowing that we still have Galvantula in the back, and a shield with Galvantula is a really solid place to be in this format, mainly because we'll be able to remove anything for the most part. And then they end up having a Hisuian Electrode in the back themselves, and in this scenario, honestly, it's probably, I think the way I play this is fine. I mean, there's really no reason to try to like wait until they throw a wild charge to to one-shot it. But at this point, we pretty much have to just try to see if we outpace, because it's a little dicey. And we get the lunge off on their Galvantula, and it's game at that point. I mean, we have too much health, and yeah, we still have Electrode in the back. So I mean, even if they got our Galvantula there, maybe it didn't really matter too much. But yeah, this format has been really difficult to play, but I've also found some success with some of these teams I've posted. Definitely consider subscribing if you like GBL content. And with that being said, the Sass Squad's getting stronger each and every day. But good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're tuning in. I'll catch you in the next one. Also, if you want to watch more GBL content from me, consider watching this video right here. for this video right here.